Hello everyone, my name is Bree Peck and I will be your host for the evening. Welcome to Breaking News with Bree. Today I'm going to be interviewing my friend Savannah, who sadly isn't here to join us today, but I have her video, which I'm going to show you right now, which has to do with her personal experiences discussing sexual harassment.
Hi, so over the summer I worked a job where I had to work with volunteers, and these volunteers were older, I don't know, like 60 to 80, and so I was working with this one volunteer, and I'd worked with him before, but I wanted to make sure that he remembered my name because it was kind of early in the summer, and so I went up to him and I was like, hey, if you need any help, if you need anything, just holler my name and I'll come down, or I'm just down this hallway, so you should see me and you can wave me down. And so they can call for us if they need help with technology or like helping anyone. So, yeah. And so later in the night, I'm helping this other volunteer, and the usher, I didn't realize it was the usher, was yelling like, hey honey, hey sweetheart, and I didn't realize he was calling for me because obviously that's not my name, and I didn't realize he was calling for me until he wolf whistled, and I looked over because this isn't really a place where people whistle, and he's like, come here. So I filed like a report against him to my boss just because it wasn't really like acceptable behavior. And they basically just like told him to not do that again. And then a couple days later, I worked with him again. And it was before guests were there. It was like 80 degrees. So I was just chilling in the shade on my phone. And he comes up to me. And I have like, I don't always look cheery. And so I'm just on my phone and he comes up to me and he basically went, you would get further in life if you smiled more. People don't want to hang out with someone who looks like a B word. And so I reported him again because obviously that's not okay. And basically my boss said that her hands were tied because he's a volunteer and that, he's born in a different generation. So it sucks, but I just kind of have to overlook it. And then I found out that there were like 3 other girls who also submitted reports and they still won't let him go. So, yeah.
Thank you so much for that video, Savannah. Now I would like to welcome 3 experts. We have Hallie, who is on my right, and Brooklyn, who is on Hallie's right, and Heather, to Breaking News with Bree. So, what did you guys get from that video, or like, do you guys have any personal experiences of your own that you would like to share? Let's just discuss what we were all feeling as we watched that video.
I feel like those kind of things happen all the time. Like, I don't know, for me, I go on lots of walks and people guys like will scream. Like, I'm like, what are you doing? It's like weird. Like the wolf whistle, I'm like, that's just odd.
Yeah, I know for me, I've definitely like spent a lot of time around like the older generation and working in like nursing homes and with the elderly and stuff, and I know that that's kind of a part of their culture almost, the way that they were raised, the things that they grew up with, so it's not something that is weird for them, but like nowadays it's kind of cringy.
I'm just curious, like she didn't really talk about how it made her feel, but that's a concern, right? Like that made her feel probably devalued and less than, and like she couldn't be on equal footing with him, and that's not appropriate. So
I agree. I mean, I don't know if you guys know what the paint dance is like here at Cedar City SU. I went with my friends and we were walking home and all these guys started barking at us. And like us being teenage girls, it was funny to us in the moment, right? It's a funny thing. But obviously we're like, oh, that was weird. So like we obviously felt weird about it, but we didn't give it a second thought because it was like a thing in the moment, and it's how teenage boys react to get girls' attentions now. So it's like we each have different feelings and emotions toward these things, and obviously you're going to feel weird and feel uncomfortable talking and discussing these things, but I think it's very important that we talk and discuss them so we get other people's points of views across.
And it's just like unsettling. And I feel like, of course, it can be seen as innocent, like teenage boys like calling out from their car, or like calling someone sweetheart. But these things can escalate. and it's just unwanted attention, and you know it's people don't want to be whistled at or barked at. And sexual harassment like is such a spectrum, and it can go so much further than just verbal. It can go to physical. It's really not good.
Yeah, I feel like adding on to that too, like I feel like it's so much worse now that we have social media. Today, I feel like I've heard stories and I've experienced it myself where men on social media will like message you and say inappropriate things and have inappropriate intentions, and I know for me personally that just like devalues me as a woman.
Tinder. That's exactly what that is. Right there. When guys message you and they're like, dang, you're super gorgeous, or let's do this instead of getting to know each other. It's like, okay, now you understand what you really want. You don't really care about our personal aspects in the matter. Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah. So I think it does start out innocently a lot of times. Like people, and men and women can do this, but people may think that they're just complimenting you or just flirting with you or trying to get your attention, but in reality they don't realize that it's inappropriate, and it's just because they haven't been taught differently. So yeah, for example, I have an experience where in my church, it's kind of traditionally male dominated, and I haven't had a problem with that ever up until like the last year. I was working with someone on a committee, and it was a man, and he made some comments about how he disparaged me and my abilities because I'm single and because I don't have a man around to help me do things, and kind of talked down to me, like he would just make the decisions for me and what needed to be done because he was the man and he was in charge and he would just take care of it. And that was kind of eye-opening to me because I've been a member of this church my whole life and I've never experienced that, and I've also been single for quite a while, so there's been opportunities, but just this particular person interpreted things this way, and I pushed back and I called him out on it, and I said, that's not appropriate. You can't just demean me like that and
Good for you.
devalue my input like that just because I don't have a man in my life. Like, that doesn't make me less of a person. But he was shocked. Like, he had never been pushed back against like that, I guess, and I don't know, if this is just how he usually deals with, situations, but I was shocked that no one had ever pushed back against that kind of treatment. So we definitely need to get it out there that education is important for men and women, not to devalue other people just because of their sex or difference.
Did his behavior change after you called him out for it?
Well, things changed. Like, I made it clear that I was not going to work with him in that capacity if he didn't change things. So he backpedaled a little bit, but in future, like in subsequent interactions with him, he was just more reserved and like didn't talk to me. So it changed, but not necessarily in the full way that I would hope that it would.
I feel like that happens a lot where they try, but it's like a cultural thing,
Right.
and that's why it needs to be a cultural change,
Exactly.
because they tried, but sometimes that just leads to reservation.
Right.
Or it, like Savannah in the video, like they couldn't let him go, they just like kind of gave him a warning.
So people don't really know what's an appropriate response, and people don't really know necessarily what's appropriate in the first place. Like, how should they be acting? So, I mean, some people do, and some people don't.
Thank you guys so much for your input and for coming on the show. At the end of this segment, we will have more information discussing the current laws in the workplace to prevent and address sexual harassment, as well as ideas for education in the early childhood.